This is Sue Ellam from Soulfully Connecting, and I have the great pleasure of interviewing Dr. Jean Logan today. Jean's one of our very valued authors, and she writes about the glyphs, which is fascinating, and also is involved with Holy Ground Farm. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about this from Jean. So Jean, good afternoon, or good morning for you.
Good, yeah, it's morning here, right? I'm in the United States, in North Carolina.
It must be a bit chilly up there now.
Yeah, yes, it is. The snow is melting, thank goodness.
Okay, good. Okay, Jean. So it's over to you. Who are you? Who is Jean Logan?
Okay, I think what I'd like to do is tell the story of how I got started with the glyphs, and I think that will kind of lead into just who I am, or who I was, or I thought I was. First of all, I want to give a little bit about my background. I am a person who has always had their life controlled with fear, totally controlled with fear. As a young person, when I graduated from high school, I turned down a paid-for college education because I was afraid that I would have to speak in front of people if I went to college. And I grabbed the first man who asked me to marry me because I was afraid nobody else would want me. And of course, sick people attract other sick people, and I married an alcoholic.
Okay.
And of course, then I stayed in it for 20 years again because I was afraid nobody else would want me. I couldn't make it on my own. And the story just goes on. And just like I say, fear just controlled my life. And the marriage ended through the grace of God because he went to jail, and because they couldn't keep him off the road. So as time went by, I realized I had to make it on my own, that I had to support these children I had. And so I worked for the Department of the Army, and they sent me to Dale Carnegie because they wanted to train me to be a teacher. I did go back to school, and I worked and eventually got my PhD, but it was in a totally different field. It was in nutrition, had nothing to do with working for the Army, which was not a place that I belonged, but that's where the money was. So I struggled along trying to overcome this fear. And in my second marriage, I started being interested in these glyphs. And I looked it up on the internet about what these glyphs were, healing glyphs, and I found some Mayan glyphs, and I really didn't know what it was all about. And then I received an email that had a glyph in it. And the glyph was a picture about 2 inches high of a little bug like a centipede. And it said that this glyph would remove parasites that hold fear in our body.
Interesting.
And I thought, wow, this sounds like something for me. So I printed it out and I cut it out, and it said use with integrity. And I wasn't sure exactly how would you not use it with integrity, but I put it on my solar plexus and immediately felt a commotion in my liver. And after a while that subsided, and I thought, well, I don't know what it was. I think I had it and I think it's gone. But I was able to communicate with my guides at that time. And I said, whoever had that much power, that they could give this power to a drawing on a piece of paper, I can do that. We can all do that. God has given us all the power. And so I said, tell me how to do that. And so they told me how I could create a glyph of my own. And after a few dismal failures, a friend called me and said she had dropped a glass bowl, had a piece went deep in her foot, and she got the glass out. And this was 2 weeks later. It was badly infected. she said, can you tell me something I can do? I don't want to get antibiotics. And I said, well, Kathy, would you be willing to try a little experiment here? And she said, sure. So I wrote 2 glyphs, one to kill bacteria and one to speed the healing. And I sent them to her. And the next morning she wrote back and she said, wow, these glyphs are working. She said, the pain is gone, the swelling is gone, the redness is gone, and it's on its way to healing. And so I thought, wow, I'm onto something. And I realized at first I had tried to create glyphs as a joy and happiness, but the reason I realized the reason I couldn't get these things is because we had to remove the fear and the anger and the sadness that we were holding inside ourselves. So I created, one of the first glyphs I created was to remove fear from the body. And so I made a little picture of a little thunderbolt, and I put it on my solar plexus. And when I did, I could feel stuff coming out of my arms, coming out of my breasts. It was just, I thought, wow, I think I'm onto something. And so I just kept going with that. And I would remove the sadness, remove the anger. Being married to an alcoholic for 20 years, you're full of a lot of anger.
I can imagine.
And so I just continued to work on it. All these negative feelings, and I could, being very sensitive to energy movement, I could feel stuff literally coming out of my body. And my understanding was, as it comes out, it transitions to light. It doesn't leave a vacuum. Light comes in. Each time light comes in, and as we are healed, the earth is healed. We are part of the earth. So I just kept going on with that. And I created one to remove the bacteria and one to detoxify the body. And I just kept going. And at the time, I was doing this just for myself. I had no intention of putting out any book. It never occurred to me. And I didn't care about who was out there suffering. I was suffering and I needed the help. And that's all I was worried about. And slowly, as I kept using it, the layers and layers of all this baggage that I was carrying dropped away. And I suddenly came to realize what my real purpose was. This is something I'd always wondered, why am I here? Why am I here? What is my purpose? After the layers of all this emotional baggage was removed, I realized why I was here.
I find it then fascinating. I mean, I've been around the spiritual world for a long, long time, but until I met you or heard about you, I'd never come across the glyphs before. Can anybody create them through guidance, spiritual guidance, and are they all different, or are there standard ones for standard things?
Well, now I created my first book. I kept 30 of them in there. And I went for what I needed. The detoxification for the bacteria, for the viruses, and I went every emotional thing I could even think of. And I even looked up, I can remember reading a book by Louise Hayes, where she said one big one was criticism. And I thought, oh, I don't have that in my glyph. Criticism. And so I checked it with I sometimes use a pendulum, or I used a crystal to verify this. And I got, yes, that was a big one. So I added that. I kept growing. I kept working on them. Yes, anybody could create one. Anybody could create a glyph. The important thing, and I tell people, you must believe in your power. If you think, like when I first started with the one for bacteria and viruses, the ones for virus didn't seem to work as well. And I asked, why is this not working well? And I got the answer, you must believe in your power. If you are creating one and you think, is this going to work? You've already got one strike against you. Okay. It's not, is it going to work? It's got to be, it is going to work. You have to believe in your power. So yes, other people could create their own. That's very true. That's very true. So finally, I was getting a little kick in the butt from my guides, and they encouraged me to go to Toastmasters, which I strongly recommend. I think that's worldwide, but Toastmasters is a great organization to help you overcome fear.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of it. Yes.
Yes. So I went to that for I went 6 years actually, and gradually I became a little bit more at ease about speaking, and I kept getting, you need to write a book. I would meet people I said, I'm getting a message, you need to write a book. And I was kind of dragging my feet there, but I'd meet another person. I said, well, I'm getting the message, you need to write a book. And I thought, okay, so I got busy and I got my first book out. And I thought, well, that's it. But I kept getting more and more. I would be given the information on what glyphs to write. And this first book was a lot of emotional healing. And the second book, I got into more physical healing, healing of all the various organs, my heart. I had a heart problem. I healed my heart with a glyph. And it amazed me, completely amazed me, everything that was just kept going forward. And so I kept getting, well, I need to write another book. So now I have finished the third book. And cards, people kept after me to do cards, and I dragged my feet because I didn't want to do cards. But finally I did. After 5 years, they said, okay, please put the glyphs on some cards. But I encourage the people that you get the books, and we use the cards to kind of shuffle them up and then see where it points to in the books. Although the book has dowsing charts in, and it also has things in there to do the tapping. Are you familiar with EFT? Yes, where you're tapping? Right. It also has instructions for that, which is another powerful. I like to give the people different things that they can use.
It seems to me, actually, you know, as we said before, people can create their own, but it's a bit like reinventing the wheel. And if you've already gone through so many years of studying these and creating them, it makes more sense to actually use one that's already that will work on you, which is already created.
Right. Well, you can create one for yourself, but then that's what you've got, one for yourself. If you want to get it out to other people, there's a lot of work involved in that, a lot of work before you can get it out my ex-husband at the time, he was very supportive, bless his heart. He was just and he said, first I started doing just little pieces of paper, little 3x5 cards, and he said, you can't do this. He says, you've got to get organized. And so he started putting them in the computer. And as he organized it in the computer, he had a whole gallery of them. And that's what got me started with the book. I could not have done the book without him.
Okay.
Could not have done it.
So what are the main challenges that you find with the work you do?
I think the problem, I think people just don't believe that it can be, but right now I'm not having a lot of challenges. Everything seems to be going very smoothly. I'm dealing with I think I'm an introvert. That's probably my biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Being an introvert. And even though I feel more comfortable about speaking, I still kind of prefer being on my mountaintop home. And then I have a nonprofit. We have 58 acres of land that I would like to see for a center for special needs children. And I think my biggest challenge right now is board members for the nonprofit. Since I don't get out much, I don't meet many people. And so I'm just, somebody said, well, just put a notice on Facebook. I mean, one of my board members is in Peru. So if they're in another part of the country, that's fine. All they have to do is be a spiritual person that loves children, because what the nonprofit, all the profits from the book go to help orphanages in Nepal.
Yes.
Because my heart is for there is such a need for there's such a tragic thing with homeless children all over the world.
Yes.
Just unbelievable. But in my dream is that somehow we do everything we can.
Jean, I have to tell you, I'm having a few problems with my computer, and I think we're going to get cut off. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to finish up quickly now, and then we can talk.
Right.
We can talk again. I just don't want this just to be lost, because it's really good information. So you can find Jean, and I apologize to everybody, it's just one of these technical things. You can find Jean, as she's one of our authors, on Soulfully Connecting, which is www.soulfully-connecting.com. And I will be talking to her again, and she can tell us all about Holy Ground Farm. So Jean, it's been an absolute delight talking to you, and I'm sorry we've got to cut it short, but I've just got this feeling that my computer's going to hear me.
All right, and thank you so much. And I just want to say my books are on Amazon or on my website, and you've got that on your
I have, but if you'd like just to say what your website is. What's the URL for your website?
There's two of them. It's Holy Ground Farm, all one word, Holy Ground Farm, like it sounds, .org.
Okay.
The other one is Dr. Jean Logan, Dr. Jean Logan.
Thank you so much, and I will chat to you again. And I'm really interested in Holy Ground Farm. I think it's fascinating.
Thank you so much, Sue.
It's my pleasure. Have a lovely day.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.